She mistook a millionaire CEO for her taxi driver, but that mistake changed everything. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to our story. Amanda couldn't believe her luck as she stood in the bustling streets of New York City, her phone buzzing in her hand, reminding her of an appointment she was about to miss. She rushed through the crowd, trying to navigate the maze of tourists and business people, her worn shoes tapping against the pavement. Amanda was used to the chaos of the city, but today felt different. Today, she was meeting someone important, someone who could change her life. With a deep breath, she checked her watch, the seconds ticking away as she scanned the streets. As she looked up, her gaze fell on a sleek black car parked by the curb. A man sat behind the wheel, dressed in a sharp suit, his demeanor calm and confident. This had to be him. Amanda stepped forward, heart racing. "Hi, you must be Kevin," she said with a nervous smile, pushing open the door of the car. The man looked up, his eyes locking with hers for a brief moment. He blinked, clearly caught off guard by her sudden appearance. For a second, neither of them moved. Hi, Amanda," he said, his voice a little uncertain. Amanda misread the moment. She thought he was just shy. After all, blind dates were awkward, right? She slid into the car, settling into the plush seat. "I know this is weird. Blind dates are always strange. But don't worry, I'll talk enough for both of us," she said with a soft laugh, trying to ease the tension. Kevin, still unsure of what was going on, gave a slight nod. He wasn't sure whether to correct her or just let the situation play out. Something about her smile made him hesitate, and for reasons he couldn't quite explain, he decided to play along. "Right, blind dates are something else," he said. With a faint smile, the car started to move, and Amanda continued to talk, unaware that she was sitting next to one of the wealthiest men in the city. She told him about her struggles as a waitress, how she dreamed of opening her own art studio one day, and how she could barely make ends meet. Kevin listened, his interest growing despite the misunderstanding. He had been prepared to deal with the usual awkwardness of a blind date, but this felt different. Her honesty, her warmth, it was refreshing. "So what do you do?" Amanda asked, curious, taking a sip from the bottle of water she'd grabbed from the back seat. Kevin hesitated for a moment. "I work in tech," he said, keeping his answer vague. Amanda grinned, clearly not understanding the weight of his words. "Tech? Like coding? Apps and stuff? I'm terrible with computers," she laughed. Kevin chuckled. "Something like that." She didn't seem to care about the specifics. She was just a normal girl, someone who didn't care about his money or status. She was different from the women he usually encountered. The conversation flowed effortlessly after that, Amanda sharing stories about her day, her job, her dream of becoming an artist. Kevin was captivated. She spoke with such passion, such sincerity. He found himself laughing more than he had in weeks. But just as they were getting into a comfortable rhythm, Amanda's phone buzzed again. She pulled it out and stared at the message. "Hey, Amanda, where are you?" "I'm at table 7, looking forward to meeting you, Kevin," the text read. Amanda's heart sank. She looked up at Kevin, her face turning bright red. "You're not Kevin, are you?" she whispered, barely able to look him in the eye. Kevin's smile faltered, a hint of guilt creeping into his eyes. "No, I'm not," he admitted. "But I'm glad I met you." Amanda's stomach churned with embarrassment. She was mortified. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," she said, standing up quickly and grabbing her coat. "This is so embarrassing." She turned and fled the car, her cheeks flushed with shame. Kevin watched her go, feeling an unfamiliar sense of regret tugging at him. He had intended to correct her from the start, but now he found himself wondering if he'd ever see her again, and why the thought of never seeing her again bothered him so much. As Amanda rushed out of the car, her mind was a whirlwind of confusion and embarrassment. She had just made a fool of herself in front of a stranger. The last thing she wanted was to face him again. She didn't even know his real name. But there was something about the way he'd looked at her, the way he'd listened so intently, that made her feel seen. Something she hadn't felt in a long time. As Amanda hurried away from the car, her heart was racing, and her mind was a blur of embarrassment. She couldn't believe what had just happened. She had literally run out on him. Her face burned as she walked briskly down the street, trying to shake off the feeling of humiliation. How could she have been so careless? Why didn't she realize sooner that he wasn't Kevin? She couldn't help but think back to the way he had looked at her. There had been something different about him, something that had made her feel noticed. It was almost as if he hadn't been bothered by the mistake at all. Maybe, just maybe, she had been wrong about him. But there was no way she could turn back now. She had made a fool of herself, and she couldn't undo that. But little did she know, that moment, that mistake, would change everything. Hours later, back in her small apartment, Amanda tried to put the incident out of her mind. She had a lot on her plate already. Rent was due, and her job at the diner barely covered her expenses. It wasn't glamorous, but it was the only life she knew. She had been scrimping and saving for years, dreaming of one day opening her own art studio. That was her goal. She had a plan. But for now, she needed to focus on getting through another shift. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, expecting to see a message from her friend Jenny. Instead, there was a text from an unknown number. "Hi Amanda, it's Kevin, the guy from earlier. I know we had a mix-up, but I'd love to see you again. How about coffee?" Amanda stared at the message for a moment, stunned. Was this some kind of joke? The Kevin she had been supposed to meet hadn't looked anything like the guy she had sat next to in the car. And yet, there was his name, right there on her phone. Her heart skipped a beat. What was going on? She bit her lip, hesitating. Should she respond? Should she even bother? Her thumb hovered over the keyboard, unsure. Finally, after a long pause, she typed back. "Hi Kevin, this is unexpected. But sure, coffee sounds nice." She pressed send, her fingers shaking. What had she just agreed to? The next morning, Amanda arrived at the coffee shop, her nerves getting the best of her. She had no idea what to expect. Had he sent the message as a joke? Or was this something more? She stood outside the small cafe, peering through the window, trying to spot him. And then, she saw him. Ethan. No, not Kevin. Ethan, the man who had been sitting next to her in the car. He was sitting at a table by the window, his posture relaxed, a cup of coffee in front of him. Amanda froze for a moment, unsure if she should turn around and walk away. But something inside her told her to stay. She had to know why he had contacted her. So, with a deep breath, she pushed open the door and walked in. Ethan looked up as the door chimed, his eyes scanning the room until they landed on her. A slow smile spread across his face. "Amanda," he said, standing up. "I'm glad you came." She hesitated for a moment before sitting down across from him. "So, you're not Kevin?" she asked, unable to hide the confusion in her voice. Ethan chuckled softly, shaking his head. "No, I'm not Kevin. But I'm the one who was supposed to meet you today." Amanda's eyes widened. "Wait, you're not Kevin, and you're also not a taxi driver?" she asked, her voice tinged with disbelief. Ethan smiled again, a little sheepishly. "No, I'm actually the CEO of a tech company. I'm sorry for not correcting you earlier. I didn't mean to confuse you." Amanda's mind was spinning. The man she had mistaken for a taxi driver was a millionaire CEO? She had no idea what to say. I don't know what to say," she stammered. "I feel like such an idiot." Ethan's expression softened. "You don't have to feel that way. It was a misunderstanding. And honestly, I'm glad it happened. It gave me a chance to get to know you." Amanda's heart fluttered. Could this really be happening? She had assumed he was just some rich businessman, detached from the real world. But now, he was sitting in front of her, smiling like they were old friends. They spent the next hour talking, and Amanda began to relax. She told him about her dreams of opening an art studio, about her struggles to make ends meet. Ethan listened intently, offering words of encouragement. "I think you're really talented," he said, his voice sincere. "You just need the right opportunity." Amanda smiled, her cheeks flushing. "Thank you," she said softly. "I never thought someone like you would even care about someone like me." Ethan leaned back in his chair, his gaze steady. "You'd be surprised. I care about people who have real passion, who are willing to work hard to make their dreams come true. And you've got that." Amanda felt a warmth spread through her chest. She hadn't expected to feel this way. She had gone from feeling embarrassed and alone to feeling seen, valued, even inspired. But as the conversation came to an end, reality set in again. She still had her struggles, and nothing had really changed. Or had it? The next few days passed in a blur for Amanda. After her coffee with Ethan, she had returned to her routine, unsure of what to make of the encounter. She couldn't stop thinking about him, about his smile, his kindness, and the way he had listened to her without judgment. But at the same time, a nagging voice in the back of her mind told her that this was all too good to be true. After all, she was just a waitress with big dreams, and Ethan was a millionaire CEO. What could someone like him possibly want with someone like her? Despite these doubts, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was something real between them. Ethan's words had stayed with her. You just need the right opportunity. But was she brave enough to take that chance? That afternoon, as she sat in the diner, scrubbing down the counter between customers, her phone buzzed in her pocket. She reached for it absent-mindedly, expecting another message from Jenny, but instead, she saw a text from Ethan. Amanda, I've been thinking. There's a charity event next week, and I'd love for you to join me as my guest. I think it would be a great opportunity for you to network and get your art out there. Let me know if you're interested. Her heart skipped a beat. A charity event? For a moment, she considered just deleting the message. It was too much, too fast. But then she remembered his kind words and the encouragement he had given her. Maybe this was her chance. Maybe this was the opportunity she had been waiting for. She took a deep breath and typed back, I'd love to attend. Thank you for thinking of me. Her finger hovered over the send button for a moment before she pressed it. A sense of excitement mixed with nervousness bubbling inside her. A few days later, Amanda stood in front of her bathroom mirror, staring at herself. She had never been to an event like this before. The dress she had chosen was one she had found in a secondhand shop. Simple but elegant, and the best she could afford. She had spent hours trying to perfect her hair and makeup, hoping she could look the part of someone who belonged in a room full of wealthy philanthropists. She wasn't sure what she was expecting from the evening, but she knew it would be a turning point, one way or another. As she stepped into the sleek black car Ethan had arranged for her, she felt a mix of anticipation and dread. The driver spoke little, but the silence in the car seemed to heighten her nervousness. She couldn't help but wonder what Ethan expected from her. Was this just another charity event, or did he have other plans in mind? When they arrived at the venue, a grand ballroom with glittering chandeliers and polished floors, Amanda was overwhelmed by the sheer luxury of it all. The crowd inside was buzzing with excitement, and the atmosphere felt far removed from the life she had known. She stood near the entrance, hesitant, when she saw Ethan across the room, talking with a group of people. He caught her eye and immediately excused himself, walking over to greet her. You look stunning, he said, his eyes lighting up as he took in her appearance. Amanda felt a flush rise to her cheeks. Thank you. This is all a little overwhelming, she admitted, her voice trembling slightly. Ethan smiled warmly. Don't worry. You'll fit right in. As the evening went on, Amanda found herself more and more at ease in Ethan's presence. They talked, laughed, and even danced a little. But as the night wore on, something unexpected happened. Ethan took her aside, away from the crowd. Amanda, there's something I need to tell you, he said, his expression suddenly serious. I didn't invite you here just for the event. I've been thinking a lot about you and your dream of opening your own art studio, and I want to help you make that dream a reality. Amanda stared at him, unsure if she had heard him correctly. What do you mean? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan's gaze softened. I've been talking to a few people, and I want to invest in your business. I believe in you, Amanda. You have the talent, and I want to give you the resources to succeed. Her heart raced as she processed his words. This was more than just a gesture. This was an opportunity that could change her entire life. But at the same time, doubts crept in. Why me? She asked, her voice shaky. You don't even know me. I'm just a waitress. I don't come from money or anything like you. Ethan reached out, gently taking her hand in his. You're more than that, Amanda. You have a gift, and you deserve the chance to show the world what you can do. I want to be the one to help you get there. Amanda's mind was spinning, and for a moment, she felt like everything she had ever dreamed of was within reach. But then, the doubts returned. Was she worthy of this? Was she ready for it? Ethan squeezed her hand, as if sensing her hesitation. You don't have to decide right now. Take your time, but know that I'm here for you, no matter what. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. Amanda didn't know what to think or how to feel. She had come to the event thinking she was just attending a charity gala, but now her life felt like it was about to take a very different turn. When the night ended, Ethan drove her home, and as she stepped out of the car, he gave her a soft smile. "I'll be waiting to hear your decision," he said, his eyes full of promise. As Amanda watched him drive away, her heart was torn between fear and excitement. She had the chance to change everything, but was she ready to take that leap? Ivy sat in her small apartment, staring at the text from Ethan once again. The words seemed to blur as her thoughts spiraled. She had spent the entire night tossing and turning, trying to decide what to do with the incredible opportunity he had given her. She had never imagined her life could change so dramatically in just a few days. The phone buzzed in her hand, pulling her out of her thoughts. It was another message from Ethan. "Amanda, I just wanted to check in. Let me know if you need any help or if you have any questions. I'm here for you." She stared at the message for a long moment before putting her phone down. She hadn't answered him yet. She couldn't. She was still unsure. The idea of accepting his offer felt like a dream, but it also felt terrifying. What if she wasn't ready for it? What if she failed? The fear gnawed at her insides. She had worked so hard to get to where she was, but this was something entirely different. This was someone offering her a chance at success, a chance to follow her passion. But what if she couldn't live up to it? What if she disappointed him? The thought made her stomach churn. She didn't want to fail, not after everything she had been through. But deep down, she knew she couldn't keep living the way she had been. She had to take the leap. She had to trust herself. That afternoon, she walked to the local art supply store, her feet dragging on the pavement. She had a plan to make the most of this opportunity, but she wasn't sure how to get started. As she walked through the door of the store, the bell above the door jingled. She stepped inside, the familiar smell of paint and canvas filling the air. The store owner, an older woman named Carol, greeted her with a warm smile. "Amanda, it's good to see you. How's everything going?" she asked. Amanda smiled back, though it didn't reach her eyes. "It's going," she said, trying to sound casual. "Actually, I could use some help. I've got an opportunity, but I'm not sure where to start." Carol raised an eyebrow, clearly interested. "What kind of opportunity?" Amanda hesitated for a moment before speaking. "I've been offered the chance to open my own studio. A big chance. But I don't know if I'm ready." Carol studied her for a moment, as if sizing her up. Then she nodded slowly. "You've got the talent, Amanda. Don't let fear stop you from going after your dreams." Amanda felt a weight lift off her shoulders, just from hearing those words. She had always trusted Carol's opinion. Carol had been the one to encourage her to keep painting, to keep believing in herself when things seemed impossible. "Thanks," Amanda said quietly, feeling a sense of gratitude she hadn't expected. "I think I just needed someone to remind me that I'm not crazy for thinking I can do this." Carol smiled again. "You're not crazy. You're just brave, and I think you'll do great." After leaving the store, Amanda felt a renewed sense of purpose. She was going to do this. She was going to take the chance. She would take Ethan's offer, and she would make her dream a reality. She had no idea what the future would hold, but for the first time in a long while, she felt like she was on the right path. The next day, she texted Ethan. "I've decided to take the opportunity. Thank you for believing in me." A few minutes later, her phone buzzed again. Ethan's reply was quick. "I'm so glad to hear that, Amanda. I know you're going to do amazing things. Let's meet up soon and discuss the next steps." Amanda couldn't help but smile at his message. She had made her decision. Now, it was time to move forward. As the days passed, Amanda met with Ethan several times, discussing the plans for her art studio. He was as supportive as ever, helping her connect with the right people and offering guidance every step of the way. She began to feel more confident, more capable. The pieces were falling into place. And then, one afternoon, as they were having coffee at a small cafe, Ethan turned to her with a thoughtful expression. "Amanda," he said, his voice serious. "There's one thing I haven't told you yet." Amanda looked at him, curious. "What is it?" "I've been thinking," Ethan began, his gaze steady. "I know how important this studio is to you, but I want to help you even more. I'm offering you a partnership, a full investment in your business, not just a loan. I want to be a part of your journey." Amanda's heart skipped a beat. She wasn't sure how to respond. "A partnership?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan nodded. "I want to work with you, not just help fund your dream. I believe in what you're doing, Amanda, and I want to be there every step of the way." Amanda was speechless. This was more than she had ever imagined. It was more than a business opportunity. It was a chance for her to have someone who truly believed in her and and her vision. Ethan was offering her not just financial support, but his partnership, his belief in her. She had never expected this. As she sat there, looking at Ethan, she realized that her life was no longer just about surviving. It was about thriving. It was about making her dreams come true. And with Ethan by her side, she finally felt like she could. She smiled, feeling a rush of excitement. "Let's do it," she said, her voice full of conviction. Ethan's smile was wide, his eyes shining. "I knew you'd say that." Ivy stood in front of the mirror, staring at her reflection. It was hard to believe how much her life had changed in such a short period of time. Just weeks ago, she was struggling to make ends meet, unsure of where her future would lead. But now, thanks to Ethan's support, everything was starting to fall into place. The art studio she had dreamed of for years was no longer a distant fantasy. It was becoming a reality. She had secured a location, signed the lease, and even started working on the interior design. Every day, she felt closer to her goal, and with each step, the doubt that had once consumed her began to fade. But as much as she was excited, she couldn't shake the feeling of uncertainty that lingered in the back of her mind. The partnership with Ethan had been a game changer, but was she truly ready for all of this? She had never been a businesswoman, never been in a position where the stakes were so high. What if she failed? What if she couldn't live up to the expectations? As she put down her makeup brush and exhaled deeply, her phone buzzed on the counter. It was a message from Ethan. "Amanda, we're all set for tomorrow's meeting with the investors. I'll pick you up at 10 a.m. Don't worry, you've got this." She smiled at the message, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. Ethan had always been supportive, believing in her when she didn't believe in herself. But as much as she appreciated his faith in her, she couldn't help but feel the weight of the responsibility that came with it. The meeting with the investors was a big step forward. If she could secure their support, everything would be set in motion. But if it didn't go well, she didn't even want to think about it. The next morning, as she stood in front of the full-length mirror, adjusting her blazer, she tried to calm her nerves. She had prepared for this day for weeks. She knew her business plan inside and out. She had the numbers, the strategy, and the passion to back it up. All she had to do now was present it with confidence. When Ethan arrived, he looked every bit the polished CEO he was. His sharp suit and steady presence were reassuring, and as they drove to the meeting, he spoke to her in a calm, encouraging tone. "You're ready, Amanda," he said. "Just remember, this is your dream, and you've got everything it takes to make it happen." The words were simple, but they were exactly what she needed to hear. She smiled at him, feeling a surge of gratitude. He had always been there for her, not just as a business partner, but as a friend, someone who believed in her even when she couldn't believe in herself. As they arrived at the conference room, the investors were already seated, a group of well-dressed men and women with expressions that were difficult to read. Amanda's nerves spiked again, but she took a deep breath, reminded herself of the hard work she had put in, and walked into the room with her head held high. The meeting started off with formal introductions and handshakes, but once the conversation turned to her business, she found her rhythm. She spoke clearly and confidently, presenting her vision for the studio, the financial projections, and her plans for the future. As she spoke, she could feel Ethan's gaze on her, steady and supportive. It made all the difference. When she finished her presentation, there was a long silence in the room as the investors exchanged looks. Her heart raced, but she didn't let the silence rattle her. She had done her best. Finally, one of the investors, a woman with sharp eyes and an air of authority, spoke up. "I have to admit, I'm impressed, Amanda. You've thought this through, and you've clearly got the passion to make it work." Amanda's heart skipped a beat. "Thank you," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "I truly believe in this project. I want to create a space that nurtures creativity and supports emerging artists. It's not just about business for me. It's about building a community." The investor nodded. "We like that. It's clear you have a strong vision, and we're interested in moving forward. We'd like to offer you the funding you need to get started." Amanda felt like she had just been hit with a wave of relief. She couldn't believe it. After all the doubts and the fear, they had actually said yes. She glanced at Ethan, who gave her a small, encouraging smile. This was it. She had done it. The next few weeks were a blur of meetings, phone calls, and decisions, but it all came together faster than Amanda had ever imagined. With the funding secured and the studio in the works, She felt a sense of excitement building within her. This was her dream, and it was happening. But as much as she had achieved, something still felt incomplete. She knew that she had made it this far because of Ethan's help, but deep down, she was starting to realize something even more important. The support, the guidance, the belief he had shown her. It wasn't just about business. Ethan had become more than a partner. He had become someone she cared about deeply, and the realization hit her hard. She had been so focused on her goals, her dreams, that she hadn't stopped to think about the person who had been by her side the whole time. Now, as she watched him from across the room, her heart swelled with gratitude. But it was more than just gratitude. She had fallen for him. Ethan had shown her more than just the way to succeed in business. He had shown her what it meant to trust, to be vulnerable, and to believe in love again. And for the first time in her life, Amanda knew she was ready to take another leap. This time, with her heart. Ivy sat in the cozy office of her soon-to-be art studio, looking around at the blank walls and empty space. The excitement she had felt when she first signed the lease had started to give way to a more complicated feeling. The pressure of it all was starting to sink in. This wasn't just about painting anymore. This was about turning her passion into a business, about making it work, and about the expectations from the investors and Ethan. She had dreamed of this moment for so long, and now that it was here, she wasn't sure she was ready. As she picked up the paintbrush, dipping it into the vibrant colors she had chosen for the mural on the wall, she realized she had been so focused on the business side of things that she hadn't really given herself the chance to enjoy this part, the creative part. She had spent so much time worrying about the financials, the location, and making sure everything would go smoothly that she had forgotten what it was all for. Art. This was her calling. She smiled to herself as she added a streak of blue to the canvas. The rhythm of her brush against the wall felt familiar, grounding her in a way she hadn't realized she needed. She took a deep breath, letting the world outside fade away. For the first time in weeks, she felt at peace. The door to the studio creaked open, pulling Ivy from her thoughts. She turned to see Ethan standing in the doorway, his expression soft as he took in the sight of her at work. "You're making magic already," he said with a grin. Ivy chuckled, setting the paintbrush down. "It's just a mural. But thank you." Ethan stepped inside, walking toward her. "I meant what I said, you know," he continued, his voice quiet but full of sincerity. "You're doing something incredible here. I've seen a lot of people with big dreams, but you've got the heart to make yours happen." Ivy felt a rush of warmth at his words, a combination of gratitude and something deeper she couldn't quite place. She had always respected Ethan as a business partner, but over time, something had shifted. She could no longer deny the connection she felt for him. It was more than just gratitude. It was more than just admiration. She had fallen for him. "Thank you, Ethan," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't think I could have done any of this without you." Ethan's eyes softened as he stepped closer, the air between them charged with something unspoken. He reached out, gently brushing a strand of hair away from her face. "You're not alone in this, Ivy. I'll always be here, no matter what." His touch lingered on her cheek for a moment, and Ivy felt her breath catch. The quiet moment stretched on, both of them caught in the tension of the unspoken words. Ethan cleared his throat, taking a small step back. "I know I said I would support your dream, and I mean it. But I need you to know something else, Ivy." She looked up at him, confusion clouding her mind. "What is it?" she asked softly. Ethan hesitated for a moment, his expression serious. "It's not just about the business," he said. "It's about you. I care about you, Ivy, more than I've ever cared about anyone else." Ivy's heart raced as his words sank in. This was it. This was the moment she had been avoiding. The moment she had been too scared to face. She had always been afraid of mixing business and personal feelings. She had built walls around her heart for a reason, and letting someone in had never been easy for her. But standing there in the quiet studio, with Ethan looking at her like he meant every word, she knew it was time to let go of that fear. She had to be brave. "Ethan," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. "I care about you too." The words felt like a weight lifted off her chest, and as she spoke them, she realized how true they were. This wasn't just about the art studio anymore. This was about something bigger, something that had been growing between them for months. It was about love. Ethan's face softened, and he stepped closer again, closing the distance between them. Without another word, he cupped her face gently in his hands, leaning down to kiss her. It was a soft, tender kiss, a promise that everything they had been through, every challenge, every step forward, was leading them to this moment. When they pulled away, Ivy's heart was pounding in her chest, her emotions a whirlwind of happiness and disbelief. She had never expected any of this to happen. She had come to New York with a dream, and now, not only was she seeing that dream take shape, but she was also discovering that she had someone by her side who truly cared for her. Ethan smiled, his hand still resting on her cheek. "I think we're both ready for this," he said quietly. "For the studio, for the future, for us." Ivy nodded, feeling the weight of his words. She had spent so much time wondering if she was ready for this moment, but standing here now, with Ethan by her side, she realized that maybe the answer wasn't about being ready. Maybe it was about taking the leap, trusting that everything would work out in the end. With Ethan's support, she knew she could do anything. Together, they could build something beautiful, not just for the studio, but for their future. She smiled up at him, her heart full of hope. "Let's do this, Ethan," she said. Together. Ivy's heart raced as the grand opening of her art studio approached. The space, once empty and filled with potential, was now filled with the vibrant colors of her work. The walls were lined with her paintings, each one a reflection of her journey, each one telling a story of struggle, passion, and hope. The grand opening was just days away, and with every passing moment, Ivy felt the weight of the expectations bearing down on her. She had worked so hard to get to this point, and now she had to make sure everything went perfectly. But as much as she wanted everything to go smoothly, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. Ethan had been there every step of the way, helping her get everything organized, providing financial backing, and offering his emotional support. He had been her rock, and she had come to rely on him more than she ever expected. But despite everything they had built together, there was still something unresolved between them. It wasn't just the business, it was something deeper. She had confessed her feelings to him, and they had kissed, but something was holding her back. She had never allowed herself to fully trust someone in this way, and now that it was happening, it felt terrifying. What if it didn't work out? What if she ruined everything they had worked for? As the night of the grand opening drew closer, Ivy found herself caught in a whirlwind of emotions. She was proud of what she had accomplished, but there was also a sense of fear and doubt lingering in the background. She was standing on the edge of something new, something that could change her life forever, but was she ready to take that step? The night before the opening, Ivy stood in the middle of her studio, the lights dimmed as she surveyed her work. Everything was in place. The paintings were hanging just right, the floor was polished, and the space had the warm, welcoming atmosphere she had dreamed of. But even as she admired the space, a wave of uncertainty washed over her. The opening would be a big deal, not just for her, but for Ethan as well. He had helped her every step of the way, and now it was time for her to prove that she could make this dream a reality. She knew that if the night didn't go well, it could all fall apart. Ivy took a deep breath and looked at the door, imagining all the people who would soon be walking through it. Investors, artists, and even people from the media. The pressure was real, and for the first time, she truly felt the weight of her dreams. She heard a knock on the door, pulling her from her thoughts. She turned and saw Ethan standing in the doorway, his usual confident smile in place, though she could see the concern in his eyes. "I thought I'd find you here," he said softly, walking into the room. "You're ready for this, Ivy. You've worked so hard to get here. This is your moment." Ivy smiled at him, though the weight of the night ahead was still heavy on her shoulders. "I know, but it's not just the studio. It's everything. The pressure is starting to get to me. I feel like I'm on the verge of something big, but I'm scared I'll mess it up." Ethan walked over to her, his expression serious now. "You won't mess it up. You're strong, and you've already come so far. Don't let fear hold you back. I'm proud of you, Ivy." His words were simple, but they hit her harder than she expected. Ivy felt a lump form in her throat as she looked at him, realizing just how much his support meant to her. It wasn't just about the business. It was about him, about the way he believed in her when no one else did. "Thank you, Ethan," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "You've been there for me more than I could ever express. I don't know what I'd do without you." Ethan reached out, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You'll never have to find out. I'm not going anywhere, Ivy. Whatever happens tomorrow, we've built something special here." His voice was filled with so much warmth and sincerity that it made Ivy's heart swell. She realized, in that moment, that the fear she was feeling wasn't just about the studio. It was about opening herself up to something more than just a business relationship. It was about opening herself up to love, to trust, and to the possibility of something real with Ethan. She had been afraid to take that step before, but now, she was ready. "I'm ready, Ethan," she said, her voice steady and confident. Ready to take the leap, ready to trust, ready for everything. Ethan smiled, his eyes softening. That's all I needed to hear. The next evening, as the doors opened to reveal the crowd of guests, Ivy stood by the entrance, her heart pounding in her chest. This was it. This was the moment she had worked so hard for. As people began to filter in, Ivy felt a sense of calm wash over her. This was her space, her dream come true, and no matter what happened tonight, she had already succeeded. Ethan stood beside her, his presence a steady anchor as the night unfolded. Together, they greeted guests, talked about the art, and celebrated the success of the opening. By the end of the night, as the last guests left and the studio quieted, Ivy turned to Ethan, a sense of peace settling over her. "We did it," she whispered, smiling up at him. Ethan nodded, his expression soft as he looked at her. "No, Ivy, you did it. And I couldn't be more proud of you." Ivy's heart was still racing as she stood in the quiet of her studio the morning. After the grand opening, the space was now hers, not just physically, but emotionally. She had worked tirelessly to get to this point, and now, she couldn't help but marvel at how everything had come together. The opening had been a success, but it wasn't just the event that was on her mind. As the day after the event unfolded, Ivy found herself reflecting on how much her life had changed in such a short period of time. She had started out as a small-town girl with big dreams, and now she was standing in the heart of New York City, running a studio that people actually admired. She had a lot to be proud of, but something still felt missing. Her thoughts kept circling back to Ethan. They had been through so much together, and he had stood by her side every step of the way. But now, with the studio opening behind them, she couldn't help but wonder where things were heading between them. They had confessed their feelings for each other, but life had been so busy with the studio that they hadn't really had the chance to explore what was growing between them. As the hours passed, Ivy decided to take a break. She sat down in a quiet corner of the studio, her mind buzzing with a mix of excitement and uncertainty. She needed to talk to Ethan. She needed to know where they stood. It wasn't enough for her to just keep pushing forward with the business. She wanted to know if there was a future for them beyond the studio. Just as she was lost in her thoughts, the door to the studio opened, and in walked Ethan, his face lighting up as he saw her. "Hey," he said softly, walking toward her. "How are you holding up?" Ivy smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. "I'm good, just thinking about everything. It's been a whirlwind." Ethan nodded, sitting down beside her. "I know the feeling. It's a lot to take in, but you did it. You made it happen." Ivy sighed, her heart heavy with the unspoken words between them. "Yeah, but that's not all I've been thinking about." Ethan raised an eyebrow, his expression curious. "What do you mean?" Ivy took a deep breath, her mind racing as she tried to find the right words. "I've been thinking about us, Ethan, about where we're going." She paused, her gaze meeting his. "I don't want to just be business partners anymore. I don't want to hide how I feel. I've been holding back because I was scared of what this all might mean, but I can't keep pretending." Ethan's eyes softened, and he reached out, taking her hand gently in his. "Ivy, you don't have to pretend with me. I've been feeling the same way. I care about you, more than I ever thought I could. But I didn't want to rush things. I wanted to be sure this wasn't just about the studio or the business. I wanted to make sure we were both ready for what we could have together." Ivy's heart fluttered as she listened to him. She had been so afraid of ruining everything between them. But hearing him speak so openly made her realize that he felt the same way. "I'm ready, Ethan," she whispered, squeezing his hand. "I've been ready for a while. I just didn't know how to say it." Ethan smiled, his thumb brushing over the back of her hand. "Then let's take the next step, Ivy. Let's see where this goes. Together." Ivy's chest tightened with relief as she nodded. For the first time in a long time, she felt like everything was aligning perfectly. She had the studio, her dreams were coming true, and now, she had someone by her side who truly understood her. The future didn't feel so uncertain anymore. She knew that whatever came next, they would face it together. That afternoon, Ivy and Ethan sat in her studio, talking about the future, not just the business, but their lives outside of it. They made plans, shared dreams, and laughed about the chaos of the past few months. They were no longer just business partners, they were partners in life. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the studio, Ivy looked at Ethan and realized just how much he had become a part of her world. He had been there for her when she felt lost, when she doubted herself, and now he was here, by her side, ready to build something more than just a business. He was ready to build a life with her. And for the first time, Ivy felt truly at home. With Ethan by her side, she knew that whatever came next would be worth it. Together, they could conquer anything. Ivy and Ethan stood at the entrance of the studio, looking out at the bustling city streets. It had been a year since they had opened the art studio together, and in that time, everything had changed. The studio was thriving, the artists they had supported were flourishing, and Ivy had finally allowed herself to embrace the life she had once only dreamed of. But more than that, their relationship had grown into something deeper, something real. Ivy had learned to trust Ethan, to let him in, and in doing so, she had discovered a kind of love that was beyond what she had ever imagined. They had faced challenges together, both in business and in their personal lives, but every obstacle had only brought them closer. Ethan had been her rock, always there when she needed him, always believing in her when she struggled to believe in herself. And now, as they stood together in the place that had become their shared dream, Ivy knew that they were ready for the next chapter. "Do you ever think about where we started?" Ivy asked softly, her voice filled with a mixture of wonder and gratitude. Ethan smiled, his gaze soft as he looked at her. "Every day," he said. "I remember the first time we met, the mistake, the confusion, but also the connection. I never imagined it would lead us here, but I'm so glad it did." Ivy's heart swelled at his words. It was hard to believe that the shy, uncertain girl who had walked into that restaurant a year ago was now standing here, in a place of her own, with the love of her life by her side. "I never could have done this without you," she said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "You've been my partner in every sense of the word." Ethan reached out, gently taking her hand in his. "And you've been mine," he replied, his voice low but full of sincerity. "I didn't just invest in the studio, Ivy. I invested in you. I knew from the moment I met you that you had something special, and I wanted to help you find it." Ivy smiled, her eyes misting with tears. "I think I've found it," she whispered. Ethan's thumb brushed over her hand, and for a moment, they both just stood there, enjoying the quiet and the sense of accomplishment that filled the air. The studio had become more than just a place of business. It had become a symbol of their journey together, a reminder of everything they had overcome and everything they had achieved. But beyond that, it was a reflection of the trust and love that had blossomed between them. "What's next?" Ivy asked after a while, breaking the silence between them. "Whatever we want," Ethan replied with a smile. "We've built something incredible here, Ivy. And now, we get to enjoy it, together." Ivy nodded, feeling a sense of peace settle over her. She had spent so much time worrying about whether she was ready for the future, whether she was capable of handling the responsibility of her dreams. But standing here with Ethan, she realized that the future didn't have to be so daunting. They didn't have to have everything figured out. All they needed was each other, and the belief that they could build whatever they wanted, together. As the evening sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm golden glow over the city, Ivy and Ethan shared a quiet moment, standing side by side in the studio that had brought them so much joy. It wasn't just the art that filled the space. It was the love, the partnership, and the promise of more to come. With Ethan by her side, Ivy knew that the future was limitless. They had faced so many challenges, but they had also built something beautiful. And as they stepped forward into the next chapter, Ivy felt certain of one thing. She was exactly where she was meant to be. Together, they would continue to create, to dream, and to build a life that was theirs. And for the first time, Ivy felt truly at home.